We're doing a 30-day challenge right now. We are trying to upload at least 3 videos per day for 30 days on my Clips channel. So if you didn't catch the live, now you can watch it on my Clips channel, which will be linked down below. So you know what I'm saying, y'all can catch that. But that's just for Twitch because we're live. You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Yeah. So this video is called Cartoon Network Villains Fates. Some that got off too easy and some they got the worst deaths in cartoon history.
Blown up, skinned alive, flown into the sun, sliced apart by a samurai sword, killed and revived only to be killed again. Just some of the many grim endings of your favorite Cartoon Network villains. Today, we're ranking Cartoon Network villain fates, from got off easy to gruesome to worse than death. So let's get started with the villains who really got off easy. And who better to start with than Miss Endive?
Yo, Chowder was a banger, bro. Yo, this is the golden age of cartoons, bro. I just watched a video yesterday about Finn, or this morning, about Adventure Time and like the lore behind it and shit like that. Bro, it's crazy. No cap, it's crazy as shit.
The villain of one of Cartoon Network's most easygoing shows. Chowder is a pretty low-stakes show, but it still has its conflicts.
And I watched that in premium
One such
view.
conflict is Endive, Mungdal's business rival and possible ex-lover, characterized by envy, cruelty, and sheer thirst.
Something smells like
Seriously, on top of using Panini, a clearly not quite right in the head child, as a pawn in her schemes and constantly harassing Mung, she objectifies Schnitzel constantly.
Yo, Schnitzel is one of my favorite characters, bro. Rada, no cap. When he started speaking English, they was like, don't do that, bro. Don't. That's not your thing, bro.
Throughout the series, in ways that make her apprentice look absolutely tame in comparison. How does the show punish her for this? Well, she marries him. Yeah, I'm not joking. The main antagonist of the series got a happy, presumably consensual marriage with the object of her romantic harassment. They both seem genuinely happy, so that is nice, I guess. But it's kind of wild that this kids show saw a character who stalked, creeped on, and flat out threatened to cannibalize another out of twisted love, and decided, hey, they'd make a cute couple.
Yes, Sergeant. I'm quite certain I recognize a few of them.
But next up is the queen of dodging accountability, Pink Diamond, who you might later know as Rose.
Wait. What's the death though?
Quartz. Yeah, it turns out that Steven's dearly departed, beloved mom was basically a second chance at life for an infamous war criminal. Well, maybe infamous isn't the right word. Yes, Pink Diamond got a lot of people killed in her recklessness, but she always had good intentions, starting the Gem War in an effort to protect her home. The reason we have to rank her here, though, is simply the fact that she doesn't really end up facing the consequences of her actions in the end. Instead, faking her death with Pearl's help and starting anew as Rose Quartz.
down here.
See, I never watched Steven Universe, but I definitely got that motherfucker in Stevani and Brawlhalla. And together, we put in work.
Ultimately living on in Steven. She got a sincere second chance at making a peaceful life for herself and her family and didn't really have a way of knowing that Diamond's drama would affect Steven even thousands of years later. That said, with how long she lived, she had to deal with plenty of guilt that must have weighed on her. And while you could argue that's a form of literal cosmic justice, she still certainly dodged a bullet. But those are the characters who qualify as having easy fates to stomach. Now let's move on to the non-lethal punishments for the villains whose fates were bearable but still life-changing in some negative ways. Okay, now I know this next guy doesn't really fit with most of the video's characters, but we just have to give a shout out to Grim. While he's a more pleasant incarnation of
welcome.
Grim
Hold
is
on.
Still very much the embodiment of death itself, who
Is
just
that a new
happens
name?
to be in servitude to some unstable children at the time being.
Welcome. So it didn't say first time chatter.
Not anymore.
And yeah, that's exactly why we insist on giving him a spot. I mean, the whole premise of the show is him losing a game of limbo and being forced to be the personal bestie and manservant of 2 children as a result. To make matters worse, these aren't your average everyday kids. Billy is sweet and friendly enough, sure, but he's also slower than a snail full of Benadryl.
This movie's too scary.
This is definitely one of my favorites. This is definitely one of my favorites from back in the day. This shit was a absolute banger.
Please, I've seen scarier stuff in your toilet.
Yeah.
And Mandy is, well, she's Mandy. I think any knowledge of the show should make that a complete statement on its own.
Punishment is its own reward.
Falling from being a supernatural
Nigga, what?
personification of death itself to being a glorified babysitter has to be a very tough pill to swallow. And Grimm makes that known. He is not happy about being held hostage by kids, to the point where he even fantasizes about killing them a few times in the earlier seasons.
This is what we grew up with. Now TV is sensitive. Now TV really doesn't exist. It's all YouTube. Like, ain't no kids watching public television.
Hey, thanks for slicing the pie, Grim.
The only reason why we can't rank him any higher is that while Grimm isn't exactly happy with his fate, he does grow accustomed to it after a while. Heck, he straight up had a chance to escape from it in the episode Fiend is Like Friend without the R, when Nurgle kidnapped Billy and Mandy to be his friends instead. Grimm initially went along with it, but when he saw Billy's crayon drawings of himself and Grimm, he decided to not save them from Nurgle and keep performing his duties. His life isn't the same, but apparently he'd rather be with them than without them, which certainly makes this one of the
Stockholm Syndrome. That's what that's called.
lighter punishments on our list. Only on Cartoon Network could a teenage girl be less pleasant than the literal embodiment
This show was a problem.
of death, but Heather was just that kind of person. To be honest, she had arguably the least gruesome demise of the villains in Total Drama, but still, this is Total Drama, so that isn't exactly saying much. She did have to deal with all the humiliation
Now us niggas didn't approve this shit.
of being shaved bald on national TV, quite sloppily I might add, and becoming infamous for being the mean girl of Total Drama. You might argue that isn't much of anything since she didn't even suffer major injuries like most of the cast, but, well, think about it. Heather went through hell this season. Every camper did, sure, but winning all those challenges meant Heather had to work harder than almost anyone else while simultaneously burning bridges with the entire cast.
You are nothing without me!
I'm not saying she didn't absolutely earn her comeuppance, but it's
Bro, I was like, is it either when I was young, it was either between this or MTV. And I chose MTV.
still must have been a major pain to go through all that and still lose on a technicality.
'Cause I remember they would marathon this shit for days, and I was like, yo, like it's good at some points, but then it's just like annoying.
Do I get my money or what?
In my opinion.
He may have had only one major appearance, but we have to give Mr. Ross
Shit, he fucking rock threw at her?
to mention as well. This dude, man, I know the volleyball game means a lot to you, dude, but being so angry about having it ruined that you literally defy the laws of time and space itself to get revenge and fix things?
This is a project I'm working on.
That's a level of petty I didn't even know existed, and honestly, I'm kind of impressed by it.
Go back and win the volleyball state championship, duh. And then get revenge.
His fate could have easily been pretty horrific, but thanks to Rigby's past self actually apologizing for his mistakes,
I will say, like, the stuff that be happening in this fucking show is like, it'd be so outlandish. You'd never know exactly like where the story is gonna lead any day at any time. I didn't really watch it as a kid, but I was like, this is interesting. It's very interesting.
steeds for once. Ross cried
You're
tears of joy
fired.
and even offered his
Like the episode with, I just saw like a reel, and I just be watching them. But like, you know, you lay in bed and you're just like scrolling, and next thing you see is like, there was like some baby ducks that morphed into one because this dude was about to shoot a shotgun at their mom when she was trying to get her baby ducklings back, and then they fucking became one person and basically killed a man, and then went back to being baby chicks.
friendship to the guys.
It's like, whose brain came up with this? It's like shit like Courage the Cowardly Dog. I just watched a video on that too. Oh my God, bro. Our childhood was goated. I feel bad for the kids these days. They won't get the trauma from the TV shows. It's all like, we saw our childhood get like morphed into this like babyish version, this chibi version that was overplayed. Like Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. I remember the episode that they did where they had the old Teen Titans fight the new Teen Titans because of the little, like, that shit like made so many people feel good inside, because like even the writers were like, we know you guys like the old shit, but like we're the new. It's like, bro, we're ignoring you.
Which he'd sadly have to wait a while to follow up on, as he'd be going to jail for plutonium smuggling and destruction of property. But hey, at least he's not an insane time-traveling murderer. That's pretty good. I hope he gets to have those burgers with the guys later. Burgers and a lot of therapy. Next is the main antagonist of Camp Lazlo, Scoutmaster Lumpus. Lumpus seemed like a pretty cut-and-dry character for most of the series. In simple terms, he was a jerk who liked to make kids' lives miserable, at least for about 2 months at summer camp. But in the series finale, things got a lot more complicated. See, Heifer Wolf from Rocco's Modern Life showed up with the police to confront Lumpus. In a meta sense, this was probably just a joke about him and Lumpus sharing the same voice actor. But in universe,
Yeah, that's crazy. At the end of the day, he was like an escaped like convict or something, or like mental facility like person. I don't know.
It turned out that Lumpus was an imposter the whole time, having locked the
that shit
real
was
Lumpus,
crazy.
aka Heifer, in the closet all summer to steal his job. And wow, this show has been over for years, but I still can't believe this is the actual description of what happened rather than a Robot Chicken parody or something. In any case, Lumpus was committed to a mental asylum as a result, which is probably the safest place for him.
Oh, he was just committed there. Okay. He needed to be there or jail.
He's not exactly going to have much autonomy going forward, but at least he won't have to fear Commander Hoo-Ha's next inspection. Moving on to Rob. Rob was the designated bad guy of Elmore.
We're starting to get real deep now. We're starting to get into the bad shit eventually, you know what I'm saying? That's when these shows start going crazy.
Which is ironic, since he's probably not even in the top 5 worst people there. He proved this in the last episode of the original series, where he disguised himself as Superintendent Evil to turn all of Elmore High's students into more normal versions of themselves to avoid something.
Hey, let me know if the volume of my voice is good to the volume of the video, chat, because I need to know if, you know what I'm saying, we level. I be editing these videos and I'd be mad because I'm like, nobody said anything.
I don't know. Something to do with the world falling apart into pixels and being sucked into a white void, which good old Robbie himself got sucked into. Since we have no clue what this transformation was intended to avoid, and anyhow, we can't really definitively place him any higher or lower. All we know is that he had some genuine cause for concern and is probably going to end up seriously injured as a result. Now, he's a character on today's list without a definitive fate, but we just had to mention one of Cartoon Network's most iconic supervillains.
So you can hear me
Mojo
talk right now,
Jojo.
right? While he's
Throughout
talking
the
over
entire
him.
series, this super intelligent monkey spends all his time plotting revenge on his adversaries, who happen to be 3 kindergarten girls.
Your kitty cooking days are over, Mojo Jojo!
Of course, being your
Mojo
typical
Jojo.
recurring cartoon villain, Mojo Jojo doesn't really have some finite end to his character arc, but he does surprisingly have a backstory. Originally being
He said, no, I'm not going to do this no more. I'm going to quit. I quit. I'm out of here.
the professor's troublemaking pet, he grew jealous when his owners spent more time on the girls than him. So in an attempt to sabotage them, he ended up ironically making them.
Powerpuff Girls being born!
Which can't be an easy fact to accept. Tack on the fact that he gets the crap
later,
beaten
guys.
out of him
All right,
by
brother.
children in pretty much all of his appearances, and you have a level of humiliation that's more than worth a mention on this list. But let's talk about the main villain of Total Drama's second generation cast, Scott. Like Heather, Scott is a villain whose cruelty absolutely dug his own grave. The difference between them is that while Heather just had to deal with some classic public humiliation,
Did I say Scott is back? I meant Total Drama's back. Okay.
Scott had to deal with getting utterly brutalized by a 2-legged, air-breathing shark who was chasing him for the entire season.
What?
Damn.
Now, usually when a cartoon character gets heavily injured like this, they have some wacky full-body cast or wheelchair or something, and then it's back to normal at the end of the episode. But when said cartoon character is a human teenager who is placed in an iron lung with only his head exposed, I mean, Jesus,
That's morbid as fuck. No cap. Hey, Gabe, you shut your bitch ass up. I'm gonna time you out.
disturbing. Made worse by the fact that we don't get confirmation that he recovered until the next season. The only reason he isn't much higher is the fact that he made a quicker recovery than even Alejandro, who was burned by lava, mind you. But cartoon regenerative abilities aside, this is still one of the most over-the-top injuries in a series chock full of them. Also, if you choose to believe it, his last appearance was in the finale of All-Stars, where you'd assume he flew into the sun if the creators hadn't confirmed his survival. So, just a shower thought. But now it's time to get into the really brutal stuff. These are the characters
now
who
here we
are
go,
no longer alive nor kicking, as they suffered the lethal fates. And first up, let's talk about Courage's nemesis.
Courage the
Specifically,
Cowardly
in one of
Dog, the
last
most goated one of them all, bro. This is one of my favorites.
episodes of the show, Ball of Revenge. In
Top
this episode, Eustace decides that after everything he's been through, seeing Muriel knit her beloved pet doggy a blanket is his breaking point. As a result, he summons 6 of Courage's past enemies to try and get rid of him for good.
Crazy.
And I mean, good God, dude. The worst part of this is that despite Eustace being the ringleader of the scheme, he gets the least brutal punishment.
Stupid dog!
Courage is able to scream his way out of the mess so loudly that it destroys the floor beneath his opponents. And given how Eustace dies in the show, I'm guessing such a fall into the abyss would have taken these guys out. Either way, we don't exactly see them after this point, so they're as good as done any way you slice it. And speaking of Courage, we restrained ourselves
Got rid of
against
him.
using a lot of characters who don't suffer much more
Got
than
capped
typical
for real.
cartoon
Hey, bro, he had a motherfucking. That just said, what was that? A quad kill?
shenanigans,
Jesus.
but we made an exception for Eustace back. Kenny McCormick may be the one best known for it, but Eustace brought the simple
No,
art
that
of
was overkill. That was Jesus.
repeatedly dying as a running joke to children everywhere. Seriously, Eustace was constantly
Bro hit
going
his
through
ult.
it. Whether he was getting crushed, run over, disintegrated, paralyzed, eaten by a squirrel that didn't even have anything to do with the rest of the episode, you name it, Eustace has probably suffered it.
Yeah.
Now, just for the sheer range
Crazy.
and quantity of deaths, we would place him at the top of our list, but the thing about Eustace is that both he and his own family usually seem pretty unbothered about his demise. It's almost like they straight up know he's gonna come back the next day.
What did I do?
Or maybe, given how mean he is all the time, they don't have a ton of reason to feel bad for him.
The only thing uglier than this is this.
Either way, it makes it hard to
I
see
think
his
it was-
death as a serious problem. As
He
messed
was
up as
everyone's
that sounds.
bully.
But let's talk about anti-Pops. Man, we were all so busy rightfully mourning the death of Pops that we forgot the fact that the big bad of the last season got the exact same ending. He was flown into the sun in his brother's arms to ensure he'd never hurt anyone again. And while this was a
Anti-Pops
necessary
is
ending,
crazy.
this act of tough love and sacrifice was enough to give Anti-Pops a sense of sorrow and remorse in his final moments. He seemed at peace in the end, able to accept one last hug from his long-lost brother and to accept an instantaneous death. It's wild when getting thrown into the sun is one of the more bearable deaths on the list.
Okay, let's see the bad ones.
Bad show indeed.
Now,
That's my
we
first
have
time
to
ever
talk
even
about the
hearing about
terrifying
that
Lich.
guy.
For the first few seasons of Adventure Time,
Nah, the Lich
this
is
guy
crazy.
seemed to be the big bad. And rightfully so. Just look at him. He went from getting kicked in the face by Billy in a goofy song to wearing the man's dead skin as a disguise. Quite the upgrade, if you ask us. And so was his final fate, as a matter of fact. See, in the episode Escape from the Citadel, the Lich gets splashed by some healing guardian blood that restores his flesh and muscle, turning him into a gigantic baby. I mean, judging by his screaming during the process, it probably wasn't the most physically pleasant thing, but I mean, he's got all his needs taken care of by Mr. Pig and Tree Trunks now, right? Sure, he's kind of got
Right.
the whole prisoner in his own mind thing going on, since the Lich still comes out at times, but on the whole, this doesn't seem like a horrible fate.
Lich irked you.
Now, if we were talking about Fiona and Cake here, well, let's leave that for another time, maybe.
But just imagine when that thing dies, it becomes the Lich.
The longest awaited villain defeats on our list is that of Aku. And honestly, it was...
This is one of the shows that started me on my samurai journey, as you may know. Yeah. This is the one that started me on my journey, that got me like into like, you know what I'm saying, this type of shit. That and like old Asian movies that black people watch all the time and we don't even understand sometimes because we get the movies that aren't subbed or dubbed. We just watching them because, like, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Weaver, for real. Let's get it.
Really worth the wait. This guy was tormenting Jack no matter what timeline he was in, so when Jack finally had him on death's door, he didn't hesitate to make the killing blow and then some. There's nothing like seeing a villain who was a gigantic threat throughout their series reduced to a miniature, crushable version of themselves, and getting straight up sliced through the skull as a form of sheer catharsis.
Crazy.
He's done.
Aku finally got what he
daughter.
deserved here. If only
Didn't
Ashi
Jack
didn't have to
marry?
suffer for it. Vilgax is a villain truly
didn't he marry
deserving
her?
the title of supervillain. Considered by even Ben as one of the most dangerous foes he's faced by a long shot, Vilgax is one of those villains who just keeps coming back. It doesn't matter if you blow this guy.
Ben 10 was crazy. I don't think they need to be making jackets and clothes out of Ben 10. You know what I'm saying? Ben 10 stuff. It's cool as like fan art, but like a business selling a Ben 10 jacket, I don't think anybody was that big of a fan except like uber nerds. Like, you got to be on some like, bro, story time. My brothers, when they were younger, we would, you know what I'm saying, we would always get some like, you know, like ideas as kids that we think that would work, and they're absolutely dumb ideas. My little brothers, JJ and Corruption, because they don't want me to use their names. Nobody wants me to. We shouldn't be using names on stream, I guess. Anyway, I don't know. You know, whatever. Don't care. But JJ and Corruption would drink hot water and think that they would turn into heat blast. And then they would motherfucking do that. They'd be like in the, bro. Then they would go to our bedroom and be like, he blasted. And it's like, bro, like, I'm like watching this. I'm playing like Call of Duty Zombies. And they're into like games too, but they were more into like that type shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, they're picking each other up, throwing each other, talking about I'm turning into forearms. And I'm like, my grandma got them to watch. That made things so much worse. Because, like, now they were like, all you would hear in the background was, I'm like, yo, please. Oh, my God. I'm trying to lock in on the game. I got to turn the TV up. My grandma comes in the room, turn it down. And y'all sit down. And I'm like, thank you. Oh, my God.
Up, send him out into space where he's turned into a petrified rock, slowly bleeding out. He is somehow still alive after it, even if it's in the distant future.
I've been trying to get this for years, Vilgax. Each time, epic fail.
Dodging death when you're as large scale of a villain as Vilgax is a pretty impressive feat.
He's supposed to symbolize like a Jamaican dude, bro. That's all. That's what I thought, bro. Spectrum homies be having fun. You know what I'm saying?
Especially doing it so many times.
I have come too far to be denied.
But the amount of physical pain he's undeniably been through as a result is not up for debate. So he's definitely had a rough ride. But let's talk about the Teen Titans.
Oh my God,
Slade. You'd think being burned by lava would be enough to take someone out for good, but not on Cartoon Network.
And that shit had to have hurt and sucked so bad. And then you go straight to hell and be locked up.
That's not.
But then you get introduced to a new life because, like, you're Slade and always got a plan. This nigga was annoying. He always had a plan.
Not just a total drama world tour finale thing either. In Teen Titans'
Robin
second season
fighting
finale,
demons.
Slade was seemingly defeated at the hands
It's
of
like, why are you so obsessed with a kid, bro? Did you want to be Batman's assistant that bad? Like, come on, bro.
Betrayal by his mistreated protege, Terra, who pushed him into a massive pit of lava. This lava burnt him enough to lose all of his skin and blood, which would have not only been extremely painful, but resulted in a fairly instantaneous death.
The goddamn bones should have been gone too. I mean, they're made of calcium and that could melt. Like, the bones can melt too, bro. And then the metal around it can melt. Like, let's be for real.
Someone was looking out for me that day.
That is, if Trigun hadn't kept him alive just long enough to use his ruthlessness as a chance to recruit him as a superpowered errand boy in exchange for getting his skin and blood back.
Hey, Jeff, good news. You're getting your skin back.
Unfortunately, Trigun, being an interdimensional demon, feared for his power and mercilessness, didn't exactly prove to be the most devoted guy to his word. On top of finding a loophole around restoring Slade to his former self, he stripped him of his newly bestowed powers and seemingly ripped him apart, making him suffer his second death. Sure, Slade absolutely deserved this, but there's just something almost pitiful about everyone he works with double-crossing him in the end. Almost. However you interpret it, he was killed brutally by someone he trusted twice, and that is just an awful way to go. But
he needed to go. He needed to go.
More Cartoon Network villains who
I don't feel bad for
worse
Slade.
hand dealt.
He should have got a worse death.
These are,
which is crazy to say, but I think he should have got a worse death.
the fates worse than death. The Bronze Medal of Brutality goes to the overarching antagonist of Adventure Time, Gold. He might very well be the most powerful villain on our list.
I watched a video about this nigga at Adventure Time earlier. I was just binging these shows because they were just like, they're so in detail and depth. Like shows like that were kid shows, they weren't kid shows. I honestly believe these were not actual kid shows.
Essentially the very embodiment of pure corruption and chaos. When Simon, Betty, and Finn are all trapped inside him in the series finale, the trio try their hardest to wish him out of existence so he won't cause any more harm. A wish that can't be granted, leading to Betty wishing for the next best thing, the power to keep Simon safe.
I wish for the power to keep Simon safe.
With that, he's fused together with Golb and flies out of Ooh, keeping Golb from ever hurting anyone like Simon again. Now, did Golb deserve this? Absolutely. But imagine being a prisoner in your own mind, on top of being immortal, and having no autonomy over your own body. That easily counts as
She literally fused with that nigga in order to keep everybody safe. Like, imagine being a human and being like, well, I'm gonna go live in the cosmos forever, for an eternity, just to keep one person safe.
a fate worse than death itself, for a being whose whole purpose is to reap chaos and destruction all over the universe. Still, at least Golb is presumably not in any physical pain, right? We're really splitting hairs here, but that's gotta be a pretty big perk at this point on the list. The Silver Medal of Brutality has to go to Mandark from Dexter's Lab. Despite the show having less continuity
Dexter's
than
Lab, we're getting into the gold mine now. Here we go.
There's one special that actually gives us a glimpse into the future. The TV movie Ego Trip, which sees Mandark get his hands on one of Dexter's most revolutionary inventions, the neurosonic protocore. With it, he grows even more corrupt than usual and transforms the world into a brain-dead mess.
Oh my gosh, we left the core out in my cubicle.
Where only he himself is allowed access to science and knowledge. In the end, that evil brain would be all there was left of Mandark. Well, that and a coat rack. Seriously, after his defeat at the hands of the iconic team of Dexter, and Billy, Mandark's biggest counterpart literally explodes from sheer rage, only leaving behind his own brain, which apparently Dexter decided to keep alive on display for the world to see as a punishment for his crimes. Mandark absolutely deserved this, sure, but we still can't deny the brutality of it.
I never even
having
knew
enough
that.
consciousness
I never
to
even
think
knew
and
this.
speak about
It's
getting
crazy.
revenge on your worst enemy, but being able to do
they couldn't
absolutely
explain that,
nothing
duh.
about it. Not
But
to
they
mention-
did make a human explode and splat his brain and spine all over the place.
being forced to live in his lab until the end of your days. The only thing positive we can say is the fact that since Dee Dee unknowingly saved the future by pressing that shiny green button, society was able to flourish without the obstacle of Mandark's horrific regime. As a result, it's possible he could have gotten a less brutal fate this time. But now it's time to talk about the gold medal of brutality. Boogeyman from Billy and Mandy. This is one of those shows like Invader Zim where messed up stuff happens so often and at such a rapid pace that eventually you just kind of stop questioning it.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I feel great.
But as the main antagonist of Billy and Mandy's Big Boogie Adventure, Boogie's defeat stood out even by this show's standards. As Grimm's bully and rival, Boogie is a wannabe master of fear itself. Wannabe, that is, because he isn't actually scary at all. But fret not, Boogie. All you've got to do is find the left hand of horror, a plot device. I mean, ancient relic that will grant you the power to make anyone's worst fears come into reality. That is, as long as you can face your own. Ironically, but deservedly, I might add, Boogie getting the hand doesn't result in him becoming scary, but rather, without even having the hand turned on, he finally comes to realize that he isn't scary at all. which results in one of the most over-the-top bits of
this
slapstick we've ever seen in a cartoon. And it goes on for like a minute. Boogie falls off a cliff, gets his skin eaten off piece by a bunch of bats, gets impaled on stalagmites, gets hit by a freaking monorail. This guy goes through several bouts of extreme physical pain that would have killed anyone who isn't immortal, and took enough hits to the head to become afraid of everything surrounding him, which led to even more slapstick violence. He's fearful enough to be emotionally and mentally tormented, jumpy enough to be physically tormented,
I can't do nothing about
and worst
that,
of all,
sorry.
he's immortal enough to never get a break from it. He may have been evil, but I've got to agree with Erwin on this one. Poor Boogie, man.
Damn. W video.